A bit late here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm OneMan. We're doing a late stream of my reaction to the 2020 debates. My goodness, been a bit of a challenge here to do some things. Let's see. Yes, so thank you all for stopping by. I hope you enjoy this presentation. I know it's going to be a bit different from what you're used to. Thank you, Stream Elements. I already figured that out. Right. Your stream chat. So basically what you're going to get, ladies and gentlemen, is my reactions to the Donald Trump campaign here. So the Donald Trump-Joe Biden debates. Let's see. That was quick. Alright. Anywho, I got that set up. Hey there, Battlecry. Thanks for stopping by. I know this is a bit unorthodox. I can't show the footage, mind you, of what I'm reacting to, but you will hopefully be entertained enough by my reactions at the very least. I know, it's a bit off for me to do something like this. Let's just vote for OneMan. You know what? I have no protest for that. Abso-fucking-lutely. Alrighty, I'm glad to hear that, Syrian. That makes me happy, because the more people who are into this, the better. I'd love to have people who have comprehensive opinions in politics. It's going to take me a minute to start, guys, because I kind of got into this late. Been helping out a pal. Been helping out a pal, and I hope you all enjoy. Now, I really do find the aspect of being involved in debates to be important. I always find it very valuable to do so. I know that sometimes people can be disillusioned with the aspect. Let's see, where's my share area here? For at okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin. Okay, you should be able to hear. You should be able to hear me. Hear the audio at the very least. Fair enough. Fair enough. I won't be running for governor until 2023, apparently, because that's when the elections take place, I guess. Where's my tab? Where's my tab? Where's my tab? Thank you. All right. 2020 presidential debate. Okay. Yeah. Where should I go? You know what? I'm gonna go watch it on C-SPAN, guys.
Gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not.
I do not agree.
And one of the big debates.
I do not agree
23
there, Biden.
Of my colleagues trying to win.
Expanding
the nomination,
it will only further ruin
Biden
middle
wanted to
America.
allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of.
I'm the Democratic Party. That's
Here's
all,
the deal.
not according to
The deal
Harris.
is that
Oh!
wipe out pre-existing
Oh!
disease. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't talk
Oh!
Happy to talk about
And
that.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban...
He's already murdering him.
Which
No,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President.
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well. in the
Yes,
court- in the
because-
court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all.
I do
Why
agree,
is it on the
Siri.
ballot? Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just
don't
be
know...
quiet?
Wait. Did he say the ballot's in the court?
View?
That's not.
All right, let's
What do
talk.
you mean ballots in the court?
We got a lot to.
That's
work
not a
on.
fucking Supreme Court thing, or any court thing. You fucking ballot.
Come back to
What are the difference between a legislative and a fucking judicial branch?
Will hear.
How stupid must you be?
After the election, in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask
Go ahead.
my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of the
and when I
individual
finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I
worst
didn't
part of
ask,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe.
The
individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something.
Oh my God!
There's nothing
He's
symbolic.
amazing.
I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no
Watch this
president
along
is
with me at
encouraged
this
to do
length.
because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. Cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done.
He has not cut
Insulin.
health
I give
care.
you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our government to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big.
this
This is
happy,
big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that
Biden?
free in
Biden?
most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid.
Where does the money
Anyone who
come from?
qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option.
Who
Joe, you
pays
agreed
for
with
the
Bernie
program?
Sanders, far left on the manifesto,
Will
we
you-
call it.
will
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
You are going to listen to him.
much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well.
No, you're
I'm
not.
going to make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out.
Prove the lie.
He knows he's a liar.
But you
No, nobody on
Joe,
his
you're
side thinks he's a
I-
liar.
graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
Oh,
wanna make-
God, I love
Can you let him
this.
finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
Surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Talk,
the wrong
talk,
night
Joe.
at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let
Now you're
him-
disavowing it.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
Do you have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President,
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care.
Where? Where did he say that, you
Because he, in
fucking
fact,
bellend?
already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his
Oh,
recession.
excuse me, excuse me.
Two,
Sorry,
there are
Biden,
20
do I not
million
exist to
people
you?
Getting health care through Obamacare now.
Do I
He
not
wants
exist to
take it
you,
away.
sir?
He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take
Because
it
maybe
away.
that's not what he wants to do, and maybe you're just projecting.
Lower price
But, and
because
by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gen-
gentlemen, you realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual
true.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed.
Oh,
You shouldn't even
man.
call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known
just
for.
had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how
He just said that's what he's
you run
known for.
Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what
So
his people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
but it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to
cheaper and
give you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power.
Does
He doesn't
Biden
lower
and
drug
like
costs for
the
anyone.
moderator
He
not
promised a
understand
healthcare
that
plan
all they've
since he
said
got
is
elected.
negative
He
things
has
about
none,
Trump?
like almost everything else he talks about.
Like,
he does not.
All they're
He
doing
doesn't
is
have a
saying
plan.
negative things.
And the fact is, this
Trump
man
is
doesn't
the
know
only
what
one
he's
being
talking about.
positive
All right,
here.
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans,
Mr. Vice President.
we're talking originally about the Supreme Court here. If Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices.
Absolutely
there.
not.
You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your
Oh, wow.
Democratic colleagues.
That
in
is
the Senate
correct.
and Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should
Then-
speak. You should go out and vote.
My
You're
reactions
voting
to
now. Vote and let your
to
senators
visual
know how
imagery.
strongly you
Pack the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
Okay.
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who is
shut
your,
up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so-
list?
All right, gentlemen,
This is-
I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unpresidential.
court.
We have
He's
ended.
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
Yeah, What do you think?
People understand.
You snipe piece of
47
shit!
years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19.
What a
which is
snipe
an awfully serious
motherfucker!
subject, So
Joe Biden has already lost,
we have
and
had
it's
more than 7
20 minutes
million
in.
cases of coronavirus in the United
20
States, and more than
20 minutes in, and Biden has lost the debate
Even
5 times
after
over.
we produce
20 minutes.
vaccine, experts say
Almost on the
it could
dot.
be months or even years before we
So,
come
I'm gonna
back
try
to
something, guys.
anything
I'm going to take a risk,
normal.
okay?
My question for both of you is, based
going
on
to
what
take
you
a
have
risk.
said and done so far, and what you have said you would
I'm
do
very
starting
scared
in
of taking this risk because the
2021,
last time I took a
why
risk like
should the
that,
American people
yeah,
trust you
he
more
did.
than
Biden
your
changed the
opponents
topic.
to deal with this
These guys
public health
changed the
crisis going
topic
forward? In
so
this case,
quickly.
the question
But
goes
at
to you
least
first.
the moderator
2
seems
minutes
to have
to interrupt.
some semblance
Good luck.
of impartiality.
200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has
Thank you for the
no
emotes,
plan.
Yuki.
He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in
Yeah,
February how
he doesn't have a plan, but neither do you!
he knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people.
Yes.
You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that,
That
what
is
did he
not
do?
true.
He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the
Do
people
you
who
not
were around in China should be able to
understand?
go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He
Yes!
did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what
Yes.
did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March.
minutes.
He literally
Exactly.
signed a bipartisan bill
I
for
laid
the
out
stimulus
in
checks.
July
You
what we should be
bellend!
doing. We should be providing all the
He
protective
signed
stuff. We should
the
be providing
stimulus
the House
bill.
passed
You
in order to be
fucking
able to
moron.
go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together.
Hide in the closet, Biden! Literally just make a hiding in the bunker argument? Are you serious?
We would have listened to you.
Are you serious right now? Mr. Hide in the closet, Biden!
1,001 is
Tell
too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened.
Mr. Raleigh Trump,
going in
not to hide in his
By the way,
bunker.
when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in
I'm
China.
serious
You
right
don't know how many
now.
people died in Russia. You don't know how many
Oh
people
my
died in India. I
God!
can't exactly give you a
This
straight
dude has
answer.
no self-awareness.
If you look at what we've done, I closed and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of
Kate
them
Brown.
said that. In fact, people that would not
Biden, you can laugh
necessarily on my
all you
side
want,
said
but I
that.
literally
President
live
Trump did a
in
phenomenal
the state
job.
who raised
We got the gown.
Trump's
we got the
response.
We made the
Kate
ventilators.
fucking Brown.
We made ventilators, and now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying.
live
They get
in the state.
Far fewer people are
Sorry,
dying. We've done a
sorry,
great
sorry.
job. The
I'm
other thing I
gonna
have
move
to
my
say, let's be
mic
honest,
further away
news.
so I'm not
no
like
matter what you say
too
they give you
screechy.
bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just
All
say
right, see if
something.
this
I don't care.
works
I've got
better.
used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was-
far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
you made a
by the way.
point. Let him answer it.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The
He
reason
shut down the
is
economy
because-
through
Look,
congressional
you folks at home,
pressure.
How many of you got up this morning?
Sorry.
And had an empty.
Sorry,
chair
I'm
at
working
the
on it. I'm working
because
on
someone
it.
died of
I'm trying to
COVID?
fix this stuff.
How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up. So
It's
you
not
could,
that
in
he's
fact,
the
say
only
goodbye.
one who can
lost
do
far
stuff.
more people. Far
It's the
more
fact that
people.
Biden.
And you would have been.
And by the way,
Out of the two of them.
Months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another
Hold on,
200,000 people between
let's
now
see if I
and the
can-
end of the year. And he held up. He said,
Let's see if
we
I can
just
move
wear
this
a mask,
further
we can
away
save half those
so that
lives.
when I do
Just
get
a
into a
mask.
rage mode,
And by the way,
you aren't,
in
like,
terms of
getting
the whole
ear
notion of a
rape.
vaccine,
Sorry about that.
We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
then-
let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
And he was right.
Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same
Probably
thing.
a good
Are they both
idea.
wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing.
He's right, though.
I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to
The
all
left
of
has
the
made
people
this
that
very
you have to
political.
speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go
Right.
faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my
Notice
office.
that
2
Trump
days
has some
He talked about the
consistency.
summer, sir, before it's generally available.
Trump has
Just
some
like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available,
It-
not when
well,
it'll
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically, and you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle
So
of
wait,
next year.
who's the
Get
one
it back.
disagreeing with
If we get
scientists
the
then?
vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President
I know,
Trump.
right?
In fact, you said that again tonight.
We've
Your
already,
running
like,
mate, Senator Harris, goes
Both this
further,
debate
saying
is
the
already
public
drowned
health experts,
underwater,
quote,
and it's
will be
only been
muzzled,
30 minutes.
will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to
Yeah,
that?
possible,
No more
keyword
than the
phrase
question you just
possible.
asked him. You pointed out.
But
he puts
see-
pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists.
Wow, the
He didn't say
moderator's
that. You
actually
can't
calling
trust
out
She
Biden.
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him.
Hi there,
That's
Galaxy
the-
Neptunia.
They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci-
scientists that are in
and
charge.
By the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even
Trump's face
acknowledged
right now is
that he
kind of
knew
similar to
this was
mine.
happening, knew how dangerous
just
it was
all
gonna be
cringing
back
right
in
now.
February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what?
said-
a lot of people died.
He's not the one
And a
who
lot more
died.
gonna die unless
Or
they
he's
get
not the one
a
who
lot
panicked.
smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
The
Mr.
one who
President?
he didn't want
You
to
used the word
cause panic.
smart. So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State.
Oh.
You graduated either the lowest or
brutal.
almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
see,
and
we're
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how
This
the
is why I watch
virus is
C-SPAN
handled going forward
and
by
not Fox News or
whichever of you
CNN.
ends up becoming the next president.
It seems
I
the
want to
moderator's
quickly
pretty
go through
decent.
several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide the
Does he not know what a
businesses the ability
phase-
to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE.
Does he not
as
realize
well
we're in,
as
like,
with the
phase one-
sanitation
phase
they
two
need.
already?
You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
I mean, it's better than
Well,
what
he-
Biden is posing, Greg.
Nancy
No,
Pelosi.
and
And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan.
No, Galaxy,
He
what's
won't
going to
even meet with
happen
them. The Republicans
is the plan
won't meet
is
in
they
the Senate.
vote
And
Biden
he
in,
sits
they
in
use the
his golf
25th
courses.
Amendment to
I mean,
remove him,
literally,
and
think
then
about
we
it.
get
You probably
Harris.
play
Think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
It's a cheap
What about
ploy.
this question of reopenings?
It's a
and the
cheap
fact-
ploy,
He wants to
Neptunia.
shut down this country.
It's a cheap ploy.
And I want to keep it open. And we
You
did a
get-
great
he
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for
It's
1 second.
really, it's not even
We
Trump
want to-
versus Biden.
He wants to shut down the
It's
country.
Trump
We
versus
just went through
Harris.
it. We
That's
had
what
to
this
because
is
we didn't know
about.
anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children
Yep.
aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be
Now,
hurt.
while I
continue.
don't
If you
agree
look
with-
at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain
I gotta
states
say
that
this,
have been
though.
shut down, they have Democrat governors.
While I don't
and all.
agree with
One
Trump
of the
touting
reasons they
his
shut down is because they
achievements,
want to keep it shut down until
it's
after the
better
election.
than the
Yeah.
November
blatant
I want to move
3rd.
on to
character
another subject. I want to move
assassination
on to another
I
subject.
gotta
that
respect-
Biden is
But
trying to
those
do.
states,
Gentlemen, I
those
want to move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down.
I gotta say
That's
this,
part
okay?
of that. Wants to
President
shut
Trump,
down
One
you
of the
have
things
begun
I gotta say
to
is that while it is
increasingly
obnoxious that
question
he's
the
touting his
effectiveness
achievements,
of masks as a
it's
disease
only
preventer.
in response
And
to
in
the
fact,
character
recently you have
assassination
cited the issue of
that is
of
on the opposite
waiters
end of the
touching
aisle.
their masks and touching plates.
If
Are
I'm
you
constantly having
questioning
my
No, I think
character
the
masks are
efficacy of
okay.
of
You have to
attacked
understand,
and
if you look, I mean, I
degraded?
have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't have to
So,
I don't wear masks
the
like him.
thing
Every
is,
time you see him, he's got a mask. He could
I
be
think he would
speaking
actually tout his
200 feet away
achievements
from it. He
less
shows up with the biggest mask I've ever
if there
seen.
isn't this
I
like
will say-
environment
Vice President Biden, go ahead. sir.
where he's
Look,
constantly having
The way
his
to open
character assassinated.
businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save
can't
up to
blame you.
100,000
The thing
lives.
is, like I said, I don't
And
think
they've also
anybody
said the
likes a
opposite.
person who
They've also
overly
said-
touts his
No
achievements.
serious person said the opposite.
But when you're
No
faced
Well,
off
serious-
against
I
a
wanna ask
force
Dr.
that
Fauci said
constantly
the
did not
I
assassinates
want
say
to
your
ask, we
that.
got a
Said
little
very
bit more
strongly.
than a
It's
minute
like,
left in this.
well, what are you
Masks
going to
are
do?
not good.
Are you
Then
going to
he
sit
changed his
down
mind. He
and
said masks
take
are good.
the
I'm
blame
okay
of
with
character
masks.
I want to
assassination?
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last
Or are
subject
you going to
because
tout your achievements
your
and be
different approaches has
positive?
even affected the way that you have campaigned.
Yes, it's a bit narcissistic,
President Trump, you're holding large
it's also
rallies with crowds packed
positive.
together, thousands of people.
Notice that when he's ripping
outside.
on
Yes, sir.
Biden,
Agreed. Vice
He's ripping
President
on Biden for good
you
reason,
are holding much
but
smaller
he tries to at least
events with
nobody will
pertain
show
and
up.
create a
People with
positive
masks.
narrative.
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right.
tries to
In any
create a
case,
positive
why
narrative.
you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go
Why
first.
is this such a
Because
bad thing?
people want to hear what I
Why
have
is
to
it a
say.
bad thing to have a
But
bit of a
you're not worried about
narcissistic
it,
job as
President?
edge?
president, and I'll
When
have
you've got an
25,000,
entire
35,000
force of
people show up
narcissism.
at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. and we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
That is a stretch of logic that I've ever heard.
And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing.
Your statements don't corroborate with reality, though, Biden.
All right.
This
is why I call you Limp Dick Joe.
You would have done the same thing. But
this is why I say Joe has a 0% chance of winning.
Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown in the second quarter. The unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape.
I mean,
what difference does
do you see
that
what's going on, though? Trump is constantly
talking
about
in terms of the
how
President Trump in this
30s and 40s and whatnot, thousands of people getting tested, him going through the regulations of being tested, and Biden somehow says he doesn't care about the American people?
2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China.
Hey, he's right.
What happened is
one person is too much.
Closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again.
He's not
he will
wrong
destroy this country.
To a certain degree.
A lot of people between drugs,
I think he
and
overly
alcohol,
inflates his statistics.
depression. When you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns.
That's the only issue I have with Trump's over-touting.
One of them came out last week.
I feel like he exaggerates the statistics.
We're going to open up on November 9th.
I don't think that's up to any
it's after the
question.
election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want.
He's got a good point.
When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped.
I love how he goes from very smug
the difference is
to very solemn
and billionaires
like that.
Like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and they only focus on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America.
This is a guy who makes $15K a year.
A total of $750.
Not listening to a guy who makes hundreds of thousands.
Sir, it's just yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
I do think we do need some social distancing and masks.
He has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States
you
to leave office.
Moral dilemma, if you will.
In his administration,
should we force people to wear masks?
Than when he became president. First one in American history.
Or should we create
the people
incentives
who have lost their jobs are those people
because
who have
in my
been
opinion, creating incentives to social distance and wear masks
our lives. Those people who have been out there
resentment.
dying. People who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the
feel free to
idea
vote,
that he is
Mr. Jack.
That we go forward and open.
My response to you is not even words.
In America, with a significant increase in COVID
I've probably
deaths
got
and
the most
COVID cases
troll
in the United States of America.
brilliant
and he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to
can
open it up?
possibly
Why
have.
doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety.
Well,
schools.
it'll
Why are
breed less
schools
hatred.
open? Because it costs a lot
Here's
of
my
money to open them
response to you,
safely.
Water Jack.
They were going to give, his administration was going to give
That's
the
right.
teachers and
I
school
have
students
a red
masks.
hat.
And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not
Nah,
a national
he's
emergency. Not a national emergency.
Logic is not
They've
in
done
his
nothing
favor.
to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job
So
and
far,
take care
all
of the
I've
needs
seen
of the American
factually is
people
from
so
Trump.
we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy
Water
to
Jack,
do it.
Water Jack.
And
All right,
the people of
let's-
Ohio are
he
very
touted
proud of me, and you know
that
how I
he
do
had
that? When
tested
it's-
30 to
We're gonna get
40,000
to your
people.
economic plans going forward.
But see,
But first,
that's
Mr.
where
President,
that's the tell-all
you
there,
know
Water
there's a
Jack.
new report
We don't
that
want
in
school. That's your phrase.
2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017.
I mean,
your
you and I
first
both
year
know,
as
Tony,
president,
I am
that
very
you
much an
paid
introvert.
$750 a year
but
in
at
federal
the same
income
time,
tax.
we're
each
not
of
the
those
only
years.
people in the country right
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished.
Hey,
You'll
hey,
see
hey,
it.
Siri,
You know, if you
Siri,
want to,
it's all right,
go to
man.
the Board of Elections.
Let's be
There's
open-minded
118
here
page
and
or so
respect
report
people who are
that says
different from each
everything
other,
I have, every
because
bank I have,
introversion
I'm
is
totally
perfectly reasonable.
under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very we have.
I mean, to
I
be
built
fair,
a
Water
great
Jack,
company.
there is
Specific
some
question,
forms
which
of
is-
Let me tell you.
glucose.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all
return.
of that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
Thank you
paid
all.
millions
No matter
of
what,
dollars.
Millions of
here's,
dollars.
I gotta
So
say
that's
this.
millions
No
of
matter
dollars,
where
and
you
you'll get to see
associate
it.
politically,
And you'll get to see
When?
it.
you are
But
still
let
in
me just
America.
tell you, Chris, let me just tell
We
you
got to
something.
understand one thing.
It was the tax laws.
No matter
I
what
don't wanna
side
pay
you're
tax.
on,
Be-
most
before
of
I
us
came here,
come from a good
I was
place.
a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every
I
other
don't
private
like the
person, unless
idea
they're
that
stupid,
left and
they
right
go
are
through
enemies.
the laws, and that's what it
I
is.
think they're
He passed a
opposing
tax
sides
bill
and opposing
that
pillars
gave us all these
that hold
privileges
this
for
country up.
depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax
I
credits
don't
like
like
the
the
hotel
fact
on
that
Pennsylvania Avenue. You
Democrats
get a
made
massive,
the
which,
resist
by the way,
movement.
was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired
no,
right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because
I hope
of
so, too.
him take.
Yeah,
He
Kenny,
says he's
I hope
smart
so,
because
too.
he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax
Oh
code. That's why
no!
I'm gonna
Billionaire takes
eliminate the
advantage of
Trump
tax
cuts.
code because
And
they're
we're gonna
billionaires and
eliminate
have
those tax cuts.
the ability to
and make sure
afford
that we invest in the
top-tier
people who,
tax
in fact, need
representatives.
the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you
And
do it over
you
20
can't
years?
provide it,
25 years?
Biden.
Because
I
you
wanna-
weren't
Why didn't
president.
you do it
You
over
are-
the
You
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done
James
more in-
Buchanan.
In 47 months, I've
Grover
done more than
Cleveland.
you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things
does
that you
does
never
even-
even thought
anybody
of,
even
including
remember
fixing
James
the broken
Polk?
military that you gave me,
Let's-
including
let's-
taking
Or
care
Andrew
of
Johnson.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going
Your
forward.
own logic
because
does not hold up.
Your economic
in
plan.
history of the U.S.
If you
presidents.
were to be elected
What
president,
are you talking about?
focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4
I'm gonna say
trillion
this.
over
Trump
a
is nowhere
decade
near
in
the
new
best,
taxes
but
on
he is top
individuals
12.
making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a
Absolutely.
recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that
Wait. Did this fucker literally rip on Wall Street?
And
then,
in 4 years, number one.
Johnson, not
And
Jackson.
Number two,
Johnson.
it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we have to, we're going to make the federal government spend $6 billion.
Does this Nimba really say, rip on Wall Street, and then he says, trust the Wall Street analysis?
And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by...
Have a good one, Siri.
I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 19.
How would you increase a tax and then say remove tax? That makes no sense, Biden.
Penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
28% is greater than 21%.
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
He asked Trump, not you.
You talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president,
I'm pretty sure he didn't, but okay,
were
Waterjack.
created. 1.5 million
I appreciate your trolling. I really do.
in the
You're really
first
good
3
at it.
years of your presidency.
You're a great
That's the
troll.
slowest
You would make the great
since
best
economic recovery.
vice troll god of America.
Recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a
Yuki.
lot. But they had the slowest
I'm not even
going
gonna
to
get mad at you anymore, Yuki. There's
Let
no
me tell you
point.
about the stock market. When the stock market goes
I've
up,
got
it
someone
means,
who's actually
it
worth
also
being a
means
little annoyed about,
401ks.
Joe Biden.
If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice
inherited
Nah, you don't.
the
Joe
worst
Biden
recession
didn't win on that
short of a
one.
depression in American
Because
history.
Joe Biden
I
is
was
so
asked to
limp
bring
dick
it back.
that he
we
can't
were able to have
even
an economic
execute
recovery
a
that created the
plan.
jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he
booming.
Blew it. He blew
it wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went.
Where
in the hole.
is your
It's number
facts?
one. Number two.
Chris,
Bring
number
them.
three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not bring it.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We
No,
brought
you're not.
back- I
You
was
are
asked to
not.
bring back Chrysler and General
You
Motors.
are
Brought them back
not.
right here
You
in the
have
state of
no
Ohio.
power.
He blew
That
it.
was
The government-
Obama,
he blew
not
it.
you.
And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
That
came in
is
from
true,
Germany,
Biden.
from Japan.
You're just
went to
hiding from
Michigan,
reality.
Went to Ohio.
They're not having.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about
No,
these
he is
great
not
trade
actually.
deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal.
It's
China's
been mostly a
perfected the
spin.
art of the steal. We have a higher deficit
With
with China
the
now
whole
than we
border
did
thing,
before.
it's not
We
about
have the highest
specific.
trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch.
It's not
Right.
specific.
China ate your lunch, Joe. And
It's
no
not
wonder your son
specific
goes in and he takes out
ethnicities or
he takes
races.
out billions
It's
of
about
dollars.
legal versus
takes out
illegal.
billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars.
Sanctuary
And also,
cities are there to
while we're
harbor
at it,
illegal.
Why is it, just out of curiosity,
He just
the
doesn't
mayor
want
of Moscow's
illegals
wife paid
desecrating
his son $3.5
those who
million
legally
That's
get
What
in.
did he do to deserve it?
That
What
is-
did he do?
Let me ask you
with
this.
None
to
of
deserve
that.
$180
You go through the
None of
massive
that.
process.
Not an answer.
None of that
You
is
go
true.
through this like
Really?
massive
Really?
process,
Mr.
right?
President,
It's
And you
totally
go and you
discredited.
work hard and you
Totally
earn your
discredited.
keep.
Totally
and you
discredited. And by the way,
You earn
wait,
your
he
keep.
gets
You
$3.5
become a
million,
legal
Joe?
immigrant.
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
Do you know how frustrating
not
it would be
true.
for
Really?
you to
Mr.
see a bunch of
President,
people
Mr.
illegally
it's an
joining
open
us?
discussion, please.
Now,
You
It's a fact.
Also,
There's,
You have
You know what
raised an
else
issue.
is a
Let the
quote-unquote
Vice
cage?
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
White prison, people go to
$183,000
prison
a
all the time.
with no experience in
What
anything?
makes illegal
Mr. President,
His
aliens,
son did
people who
nothing
did
wrong
not
at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
do things
Mr.
legally, they
President,
committed
let
a
him
crime, be
He doesn't
treated
wanna
any
let me answer
different than
because he
white people
knows
or
I
black
have the
people in
truth.
prison.
His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The
by
media.
didn't
by
know that?
everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they
allies,
were-
You didn't
by
know
the
that?
World Bank,
You didn't know that, Yogi?
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr.
Also,
I'm
I
listening to
fucking
you.
love your
He
trolling,
got
Water
$3.5
Jack.
million
I
testified-
appreciate you. You are awesome.
He testified under oath
You
in
are
his
awesome,
administration.
Water
Said,
Jack. I hope
did
you
my
have
job
a lot
and I
of fun
did it
here.
very well.
Oh,
I did
really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do
well,
a good
here's
job.
The,
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say-
You get the, wait a minute. You get the final word. Mr.
well, it's hard to
I
get
can't
anywhere
believe
with
they're
this
fucking
crime.
around.
Excuse me. This,
Hey, let me
Oh
just
no,
say, Joe.
back,
No, no.
sides, a
President,
tiny
I'm
bit on the
Mr.
top.
Joe.
that is simply
Why did he
not true.
deserve
Look-
$3.5
look at the
million
top.
from
Did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal.
Very few
We wanna
hairs,
talk
but still
about
hairs.
families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go
coming down
ahead.
and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a
they're right
Mr.
here.
Mr.
That's such
President.
a
Every
great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
President.
my
coming and
family or his
helping us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your.
You're the one who
family.
brought us the
American
family, you
family
stupid
doesn't-
fucker.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about. what
You're the
you
one
need.
who brought it
You,
up,
the
you
American
fucking
people. It's
retard.
about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
take
that's
Not
the end
about
of
here.
the, that's the end of the
Biden,
segment.
you're the one who
moving on.
brought up
He didn't
his
take-
family.
Vice President,
You
no,
absolute classless villain.
Try to be
No,
honest.
I-
That's
I-
a
He
good
stood
thing.
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine
No, sir.
with $1 billion if you don't
that
get rid of
is
the press.
absolutely
You know what? You're
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be. Why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have
Moderator
six
wins
segments.
this one.
We have ended that segment. We're going to go to
Wait,
the
how
next
is that
segment.
racist?
In
That's
that
a good
segment,
thing.
You each
Tacos
are going
are
to have
great.
2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer
Doubtful,
interruptions.
but-
I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well,
But, you know, when has a
frankly,
person
you've been being more
reacting to
interrupted.
anything
That's right,
on the
but he does
screen
plenty.
ever actually,
Well,
you know,
less than
panned
sir,
out?
less
There's
than
plenty.
No,
That's
less than you have.
sort of the fun.
Let's please continue on.
Kind of the
The
part
issue
of
of
the
race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you
Citation,
to launch
please.
this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution.
It's about the
And we have
establishment
never walked
manipulating
away
black
from
voters.
trying to
go back on the plantation.
Equality for the whole.
That
of
is
America.
his goal.
But we've never accomplished it.
He
We've
doesn't
never
like people
walked
like
away
the
from it
Hodge
like he has
twins.
done.
He
It is
doesn't
true.
like
The
people
reason
like
I got in
Candace
the races
Owens.
when those people.
He doesn't
Close your
like
eyes.
people
Remember what those people look like coming out
like
of the field.
Kanye
carrying
West.
torches,
He doesn't
their
like
veins
people
bulging,
like
spewing,
Kim Kardashian.
just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux
Wait,
Klan. A young
is he
woman got
seriously
killed.
saying that?
And they asked the president
When
what he
he's
thought,
the
he
guy,
said,
when Trump
"We're
is the
very
guy
fine
who
people
moved the
on both
headquarters
sides."
to Jerusalem.
No president has ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish the
It
statement.
is whose
Now,
2 minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House.
There was no
What
peaceful
did he do?
protest.
He came out of his bunker.
He threw
had the
violent
military
actions.
use tear gas on him so
No,
he
he
could walk
doesn't.
across
That's not
to
true.
a church and hold up a Bible.
Okay.
And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said
Yeah,
that it was a
he's so
disgrace.
fucking wrong.
The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all.
That's not what he
This
said,
is a
that's what you
president
said,
who
Biden.
has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus.
1 in 1,000. Do you not
and if
hear
he doesn't do something
these
quickly,
odds?
by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did.
Ultimately
and
wrong.
What he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
Yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Why should
what kind of person who hates
trust
black
you
people
over
hugs
your
them?
opponent to deal with racism?
He did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why,
to be fair,
if you look at the polls,
I understand
I'm
where you're
doing
coming
better
from
than
with
any
that.
Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump.
Oh, wow.
Any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle.
Oh, God, he
they
just
heard we were coming in the
ended this
following day
fool's
and they put up
career.
their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis.
He ended
we got it
this
back,
fool's
Joe, because
career
we believe in law and order.
1
but you
hour
don't.
in.
The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order.
Like,
and I'll tell you what,
brutalized,
the people of this country
like,
want and
Spank
demand
me
law
harder,
and
Trump
order, and
daddy,
you're afraid
says
to
Joe
even say it.
Biden in
All right.
Donald Trump's secret sex
I want
dungeon.
to return to the question
levels
of race.
beaten.
Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in
Oh,
the
God, that's gonna
Breonna
be a clip,
Taylor
isn't it?
case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide,
That's gonna be a
you
clip,
said it
isn't it?
raises the question, quote,
You guys are gonna
whether
clip that shit, aren't
justice
you?
could be equally
Oh, my
applied
God.
in America.
I
Do
just
you
came up
believe
with the worst fan
that there
fiction
is
of all
a
time.
separate but unequal
Worship
system of
and fan
justice
fiction.
for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is a
Go ahead and
there's
quote me on that.
systemic
That's
injustice
gonna be
in this
great.
country, in
That's gonna be a
education,
great old
work,
meme.
And in
Oh,
law
God.
enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women.
Wait,
Take care of us. But there are some bad apples, and when they occur,
But
when
that's-
they find
that's
them,
the
they have to
opposite
be
argument you're
sorted out.
making.
They have to be
What
held
are you
accountable.
talking about?
They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to
Trump
do
doesn't
across the
even
United
need
States
to
is
end his
call
career.
a-
Joe Biden's like,
together an
okay,
entire
here's basically
group
the
of
meme.
people at the White
Donald
House.
Trump, I'm about
Everything from the
to
civil
end
rights
this nigga's
groups to the
career.
Police officers, the police
Joe
chief,
Biden,
and we're gonna
not if I
work
do
this
it
out.
first.
We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna
amazing.
Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are
my
held
God,
accountable.
this is
And by the way,
amazing.
violence in response
so
is never
many
appropriate.
ways.
Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town
President Trump,
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people all
President
over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
I did
President
not
Trump,
say
I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that
That's
addresses
Noir
race
from
privilege
Triple
or
Bitunia.
critical race theory.
Right?
Why did you
Yuki?
decide to
I
do
love
that,
how
to end
like
racial
Joe
sensitivity
Biden
training?
will
And
change the subject
do you
and then
believe that
say
there is
Trump said
systemic
this.
racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist.
Yeah,
I ended it
the
because
thing
a lot of
is,
people
Mystical,
were complaining that they
also
were
yearn
asked to
for
do
a
things that
day
were absolutely
where we
insane,
judge people
that
on
it
their
was a
intellect and their
radical,
content of character.
revolution that was taking place in our military,
I want
in
a
our
day
schools,
where we don't
all
look
over
at
the
each
place,
other
and
for
you know
race,
it, and so does
What
everybody
gender,
is
else.
radical?
And he would know.
What is
judge
radical
off
about
of
racial
contributions
sensitivity trainings?
If
and
you
your
were a certain
values.
person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of
that's
dollars
the thing.
to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas.
I took the
and,
actions
and
I
really,
did in getting
they were
Trump
teaching
elected
people to hate
because
our
I
country.
have that
and I'm
dream.
not going to do that. I'm not
You
going
know
to
why
allow
I
that
have
to
that
happen.
dream?
We
Because
have
my
to go
old
back
man's
to the
dream
core
was
values
a
of
world
this
of
country.
love and peace
They
for
were
all.
teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President
I'm
Biden?
not going to
Nobody's
judge
doing
Annie
that.
Mae Malaysia by the
he's
same
racist.
token
Here's the deal.
as
I know a
Galaxy
lot more
Neptune.
about
You
this
don't
than you
know.
do.
Let
I
him
will
finish.
judge each and every one of
The
you
fact is that
based on your
there
actions
is
and your
racial
beliefs.
insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like,
No, they
what
don't.
insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important
Is
that people know they
individual
don't want
autonomy
to. Many
not
people
a
don't
thing
want
to you?
hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It
No,
makes
it
a
doesn't.
gigantic difference in the way a child
It makes no
is able to
difference.
grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy
Yuki,
and,
I know you're
and his
being
friends
ironic
look down
with
on
that.
so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who
You see,
are of a different
he's literally calling
faith.
himself
They look down on people
privileged.
who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're
Also
going to bring
camera
this
work.
country together
Seriously,
is
what-
bring
why
everybody
is all the
together.
camera
There's
work so
nothing
shaky?
We cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like
No,
you
it's
about
not.
law and order.
Violent
You dropped
crime,
names.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You following
Are you in
it and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go ahead,
Yes, I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him
is.
finish.
law and
Simulation.
order.
It is.
This is
Law and
Let him-
order.
let him-
But we gotta
law
start.
and order with justice, where people
Hey,
get
he
treated
said it,
fairly.
law and order.
And the fact of the matter is, violent
Done.
crime went down 17%, 15% in our
It is.
administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
He
in
had.
ours.
It
All right,
is.
we're
Trust me.
down.
He is
You're,
president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to.
of America.
We
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every
you're-
record in the
Mr.
book.
I
President,
can't
you're gonna be very
necessarily
happy.
judge
We're
on
not
the
gonna talk
debate.
about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities
can't
like
judge by a
Tulsa
debate,
and Fort Worth.
but
so the question is this
in a
really
vacuum,
a party issue?
if you were to judge this
I think it's a
by
party
a
issue. You
vacuum,
could bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going
I
on
know,
in
I know.
Chicago, where
But what I'm saying is you can't
53
judge
people
an
were
election
shot
on a
and 8
debate.
died shot.
But if you were to
look at New
judge the
York,
election
where
in
it's
a
going
vacuum
up like
on
nobody's
this
ever seen
debate,
anything. The numbers are going up
I'm right
100,
about
150,
Biden having a
200%
0% chance of
crime.
winning.
Republican
It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We
our
Biden is
suburbs
dying.
would be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a
before.
suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead.
I was,
Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950.
Yeah,
all these
you-
dog
you-
whistles and racism.
Corn Pop
don't
was a
work
really
anymore.
bad dude,
Suburbs
right?
are by and
You
large.
learned a lot
integrated.
about
There's many
roaches,
people today driving their
and
kids
that's
to
not
soccer
somehow
practice and
some
or
sort of,
black
you
and
know,
white
subtle
and Hispanic
racist
in the
jab.
same car as there have been any time in
Literally,
the past.
the only
What
kids
really
in the
is a
pool
threat
that you
to the
mentioned, Joe
suburbs
Biden,
and their
were
safety
black.
is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs.
And so,
his failure to deal with
when
the
you said you
environment.
learned a
They're being
lot about
flooded.
roaches,
they're being burned out
who were
because
you
he has
referring
refusal to
to?
do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact,
that's actually something I'm actually
the only one defunding it. His budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before.
We have to,
officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think
all
about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported
I think, gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role,
and
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities.
Trump just
that have
killed
turned
him there
violent.
too.
In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable.
I'm going to give C-SPAN credit where credit is due.
You said that
okay?
you are the Democratic Party right
I'm
now.
actually impressed
Have
by
you
the
ever
moderator
called the Democratic
C-SPAN?
mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon?
I'm actually surprised he's willing to admit
you got to stop this,
that a lot of these
bring in the National
protests
Guard,
turned into
do whatever
riots.
it takes, but you'd stop the days and months.
This
of
debate
violence
alone,
in Portland.
while imperfect,
I don't hold public office.
has given me a little bit more faith in the mainstream
former
media.
Vice President. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take
Wow!
care of it if he just.
They even name-dropped Oregon.
Oh, really? Really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the
proof.
But here's the point. The
Proof.
point is that that's what he is.
See, that's the thing about both sides of this debate.
He doesn't want to calm things down.
Citation
Instead
needed.
of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly.
He says,
every single solitary time.
Okay, and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
His
repeatedly.
statement. Wait,
you have
just 1
No,
second.
you've been talking back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir.
I would love to end it. and
You know,
we
if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out
That happens-
Antifa
to be fair,
and other
that happens for
left-wing
both sides.
extremist groups. But
Citation
are you willing
needed
tonight
is going to be a
condemn
key
white
phrase here to define
supremacists
this
and
debate.
militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a left-wing problem.
Trump, this is a both sides problem.
Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
malicious. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
FBI. His
Okay.
FBI director
I feel like these people
said.
have never watched
No,
Aurora.
We're done, sir. We're
Everybody-
moving on to the
Literally,
next.
Antifa are the dollars.
That's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first.
This
2
is
minutes.
going to be a key
Because
question.
there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment
wrong.
hoax.
He's not wrong.
And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying it's time.
I mean, the
maybe,
dude is
and then what
nominated
happened,
for a
we got
Nobel
hit, but
Peace
now we're
Prize.
building it back up again. A rebuilding
You don't
of
just
the
get that
military,
for
including
nothing.
Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a
dude-
mess under him.
dude
308,000
isn't
people
wrong.
died because
He
they
got
didn't have proper
nominated
healthcare.
for a Nobel
It was
Peace
a
Prize.
mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and
300?
hopefully 3 great Supreme Court judges, justices.
I wouldn't put
That
much
is
investment
a
to Mars there,
record,
Galaxy
the
Neptunia.
likes of which very few people, and you know one of the
Reasonable
reasons I'll have so
skepticism
many judges?
will not trust
because
it.
President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Time, sir.
300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice
what?
president, we inherited a recession.
See, the problem with
I was asked to
Biden
fix it.
isn't
I
the fact
did.
that
We
he
left him
may
a booming
or may not be
economy,
factually correct.
and he caused
It's
the
the
recession.
fact he only
With
makes
regard to
abstract
being weaker,
statements and
the fact
platitudes.
is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's
You're
puppet.
using
He still
a
refuses to
boogeyman,
even
you
say anything
fucker.
to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my son.
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can
Because-
you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That
not
was a
yelling
rhetorical
at you,
question.
that's all.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor.
To be fair, Trump
Billionaires
is not
have gotten
doing
much
himself
much
a
more
favor
wealthy
with
by a
interruptions.
tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms
prove
of being
that, Biden.
more violent. When we were in
Prove
office,
that.
there was 15%
I
less
make
violence in
$15K a
America than
year.
there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on
I make
his watch.
$15K a
with
year and I
regard
support
to
Trump.
More divided. The nation
You
can't stay
serve
divided. We
the
can't stay this
establishment.
way. And speaking of my
This is
son,
my
the way you
revolution,
talk about the military,
my dynasty,
the way you talk about
not
them
your
being
establishment.
losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there.
He was in Ukraine, sir.
He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know
got
Beau.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
Yes,
he
it
made
is.
a
My son,
fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
Have fun with college,
like
man.
a lot
Have
of
a nice
people,
day.
Like a lot of people you know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But
dollars?
he wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions
He was
of dollars.
given
That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
been totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a
I know, but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, great.
from the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging
cares.
now. They have burned millions of acres.
Don't profit
They have
off of my misery.
displaced hundreds
I was
of
choking
thousands of people.
on smoke
When state
for
officials
about
now
a
blame
week.
the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4
Quit
years,
using my
you have
asthmatic
pulled the
condition
U.S. out of
and
the Paris
choking
Climate
on smoke
Accord. You have rolled
for
back
your
a number of
fucking
Obama environmental
pseudoscientific
records.
agenda.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else.
He's right
the
again.
forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change?
You're back.
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored
No, but you would take a lot of cars
roadmap.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Right. Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy
taxation.
production
Who pays
by
the taxes?
2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating jobs, creating millions of good-paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforest of Brazil.
I love this little funny smirk he's got right now. I love it.
More carbon.
I love how, like, when Trump talks, he's crestfallen, and when Biden talks,
instead of doing
Trump
something
is just
about
a
that,
smug
I would be gathering up
fucking
and making sure we had
motherfucker.
the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, makes sure that we.
The moderator just said he did.
Methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that. Well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings
and
rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going to.
The case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes: the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs.
It
And there's
doesn't
tax
offset
incentives
the
for people-
economic
for people
costs,
to weatherize,
though.
which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a lot of things.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look
Really?
what's happening just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties.
Is he
in Iowa.
seriously
That
blaming
didn't happen
the
before.
weather?
They're because of global
Is he seriously
warming.
blaming Trump
We make up 15%
for the weather?
of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into
Is this Nibba
the Paris Accord.
seriously
gentlemen,
Wait a
blaming
minute,
the
Chris, so
weather?
why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does, India does, they all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion,
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild
all right.
every
If he knew
you have to-
anything
wait, no,
about,
no, wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen?
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen?
about the military. He
Gentlemen!
said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
not
said
sir.
it.
Stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that
play
to the
Stop.
military.
play it.
Go ahead, Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President.
Yeah, he's blaming
Answer
Trump
his final
for the
question.
weather.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings. was the
I'm
final
having a little
question.
trouble- I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy
Fuck
and
you,
about this question of
fucking
what it's going to
moderator.
cost.
The economy.
Yeah, for the weather.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move
No,
forward.
it
We're
won't.
not going to build
That's
plants
the
that,
problem,
in fact,
you
are
fucking
great
idiot.
polluting plants.
So do you
We're gonna
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden-
lost the radical left.
I
Gone.
support
Oh, you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he
the Biden
calls the
plan.
radical Green
Notice
New
he
Deal.
uses
All right,
the phrase
gentlemen,
Biden
final
plan.
segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be
Zero.
a fair election? And what
0%
are you prepared to
confidence.
do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepare to
Final
let
segment,
people vote.
boys.
They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His
Yes,
own
thank you.
Homeland
I
Security
agree.
Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and
Yes,
cheating.
they are.
They said
I
that.
literally
The
exist
fact
as
is
proof.
that there are going to be millions of people because
love
of
his
COVID
smirking.
that are
Trump's
going to be
smirking is
voting
just
by mail-in ballots,
gold.
like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two,
Not
we're going to make sure that
so-
those
non
people
sequitur.
who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there. To
I'm sorry
make
if I'm
sure they
a
can
little too
socially
loud.
distance.
Juan
The
Diego
polls are open
Ojeda.
on time, and the polls
I
stay
am
open
sorry.
until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to
I
dissuade
get a little
people
fun
from voting
and
because he's
overreactive
trying to,
sometimes for the sake of
to
entertainment.
scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate.
I do
Show up
apologize.
and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able
I
to vote
will,
early in
Biden.
your state, vote
I
early.
will be voting.
If you're able to vote in person, vote in person.
For
Vote
Donald
whatever
Trump.
way is the best way for you.
And just to trigger
because
the
you
libs.
will. He cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And
Hot
in
to
terms
the
of whether or
lips.
not, when the votes are
You
counted
hate
and they're all
Trump.
counted, that will
Whose
be accepted.
irreverent
If
hatred
I
of
win,
Trump
that will be
in
accepted. If I
unearned
lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way,
hatred of
if
Trump.
in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going
You're
to
not
go.
gonna get
He
the
can't stay in
votes.
power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand You have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years.
Yes, we
is
do.
it going to
And I'm gonna
change?
vote
You
for
get
Trump.
4 more years of these lies.
It's
President,
there's no
2 minutes.
lines.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it, too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned,
Yeah,
it's a
Bram, this is a
disaster.
one-time thing for a while.
A solicited ballot.
Well, that no non-Fox.
Okay,
video,
solicited
but-
is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2
He's
in a
not wrong.
Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is
Right.
going to
Why
be a
vote then?
fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're
This
not
guy's
losing
going
2%,
hard on
1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%.
Trump
It's a
is
fraud. And it's a
brutalizing
shame.
him.
And can you imagine where they say
Trump's going to
you
go
have
and
to have
drag
your ballot
Biden
in
back
by
to his
November 10th.
sex dungeon
November
to punish
10th.
him for
That
being a
means
bad,
that's
bad
7
boy.
days after the election, in theory, should have been
God,
announced.
I need
We
to
have
stop.
major states with that.
I need to
All run
stop
by
with the
2 minutes
Democrats.
is 2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say
Right.
it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018,
Donald Trump is getting
the last
Joe
midterm
Biden's
election,
pussy wet.
31
Damn it,
million
I need to
people
stop with these
voted
jokes.
mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated.
It's hard to argue.
They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what
They
are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I'm not-
okay,
I know
or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and vote.
I know, right?
You
Where's
go
Kanye?
and
No,
vote,
but what I'm saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our
tried.
country.
There is
I
no,
kid you
there
not.
is no
This is not
evidence of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
He
evidence
literally
of
already
that.
showed you the
Vice President
evidence,
Biden,
Biden, you
states
delusional
have
bastard.
mail-in ballots for the last decade or more, 5, including 2 Republican states.
Abstract
And you don't have to
statements
solicit the
again.
ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home.
Yes,
what
it
we're
is. So
saying
what?
they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day.
I see no
If it
reason
doesn't
why,
get in till
if
the
you social
7th, 8th,
distance
9th,
and wear
it
a
still
mask,
should be counted.
that you can't
He's
vote.
just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows
wrong.
the outcome.
You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President
votes.
Biden.
Chris,
because
he's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is
Right.
some other irregularity, or they
can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you
This
when you
dude
file,
just literally
when you
just
get a ballot
disrespect
and you fill it out.
one of the most
you're supposed to
constitutional
have an
aspects.
affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that
It's
this
in
is
the
me.
Constitution,
you should be
Biden.
able to, if in fact you can verify that's you
It's
when
in
before the ballot is
the
thrown out,
Constitution.
that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot
Stick
if someone
bugs,
made a
lol.
mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final,
80 million ballots
gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already
All
there's
right.
been
So now,
fraud.
Mail service
deception.
delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. In the
185
final
million
question
pieces of mail a
is:
day.
in
80
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
in
a-
8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers
Wasn't this
are
supposed to be the
prohibited
final issue?
currently by law. 8 states from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other.
Are you sure it's
Will
piss?
you urge your supporters
Maybe
to
Donald
stay
Trump
calm
gets Joe
during
Biden's pussy
this
wet.
extended period,
We all know
not to
Joe Biden
engage
is the
in
woman
any
in his
civil
relationship.
unrest? And will you
We all
pledge
know that
tonight
Joe Biden
that you will
is
not
the
declare
woman
victory until
in the
the election
presidential
has been
ticket?
independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means
street?
you have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about
not.
that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two.
Okay.
They cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military.
If he wins.
They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
You think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We
Okay,
count the
good.
ballots, as you pointed out.
I agree with that.
Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election
Right?
Day.
Everybody,
And for thousands
both
of
sides
ballots,
interrupt
gonna
each
take
other.
time to do it. And by the way,
I knew this was
our
going to be
military,
a dumpster
they've been
fire,
voting
and it's
by
going to be the
ballots
best dumpster
since
fire.
the end of the Civil War.
And the
in
only
effect-
thing
in
better
effect.
than this dumpster
And that's-
fire
and that's what's
are the
going to happen.
memes
Why was it not?
of said dumpster
why is
fire.
it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail.
I have,
ballots.
Biden.
That somehow
I'm
it's a
on
fraudulent
Quora.
process.
It's already been
I've
established.
had it.
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal.
Biden's
The fact is, I
making
will
shit up.
accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll
Good.
be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
Right.
I want to
if
see
in
an
fact,
honest
Okay.
ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued
does.
as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt
Well,
Lake
ladies
City.
and
The 2
gentlemen, I
vice
guess this is
presidential
gonna be a
nominees, Vice
mini-series.
President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
All right. So, the vice presidential debate is over.
Thank you.
All right. Or, sorry, not the vice presidential. The presidential debate One of several, apparently. Oh, look at that. A nice pat on the shoulder. Look. Photo ops. Lovely. Yeah, that's like... Let's just, like, add that. Oh my, how lewd. MVP of the debate! The one dude is like, hello for Trump! Oh my god, yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. You are the MVP of the round. Oh, fucking boy. Man, oh man. Wow. That is dumpster fire of a debate. Number one. I'm not gonna lie. Each side has their debate weaknesses, right? One of which is citation needed, right? I'm not gonna say Trump or Biden has a strength in citations, but Biden is remonstrably worse and remonstrably weaker in citing their sources than Trump. Trump has some form of like anecdotal forms of evidence, but Joe Biden in that debate dealt in a major sense of abstracts. It was a major abstract statement and debate strategy. He does what we in the business call tautologies and platitudes. He hurled nothing but slogans. At least Trump had some level of citation. And one of the biggest tells of this debate, it's not going to be the talking points or the debate points. It's going to be the reactions to the debate points. It's going to be how people feel about these debate points. Whereas the eco, are you talking about the ecology, the economy? What are you referring to? I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. I am not used to that abbreviation, if you will. Also, yes, absolutely feel free to ask me questions on this. I am a politician by the end of the day, and I am a mercenary for hire in regards to that. So, if you want to ask me questions about this debate, feel free, but I gotta say a couple other things, okay? You gotta remember that Joe Biden did a lot of arguing with himself rather than Trump. Like, for one of the most prevalent examples, the eco of the two. I will be somewhat, probably like tomorrow or something. A lot of these things they stated were just blatantly untrue, though. The eco of the two. What does eco mean? I am not... Because all I keep seeing is, from ecology. I don't have a body pill, but... Lol. Oh, Bram Miller, you're a great guy. The eco of the two. Let's see the ecology. What is the... Okay. Are you talking about the ecology of these two? Hold on. I'm looking up the definition to see if I can understand what they're referencing. Oh my god. Why? Let's see. The term econ. Ah, executive count. Oh. Ego! Ego! Oh, that's why I got confused. Ego. Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so in order to understand this, right, you gotta understand one thing. This, in of itself, is between two egomaniacs, right? This is between two egomaniacs. At the same time, though, despite both of their blatant egomania, they have some form of people they are loyal to, right? But I noticed that, for the most part, their agendas are completely separated in a vacuum. There didn't seem to be any attempt to reach across the aisle. I think only Trump gave any sort of credence to Biden's statements, as I think he said once that, and I believe it was at the end, that they both want a fair vote count. No. It's what I call ego culture, anime. It's the inherent need for a populace to believe that humanity is inherently good. I would run for basically what looks like the winning ticket. I don't run on a political party platform that would not seem to me to be the winning or to be the losing ticket. Like, I'm running for governor under the Republican Party because the Republican Party currently has the political advantage. They have the president in office, they dominate the Supreme Court, they dominate the governorship. The only thing the Democrats have is the House of Representatives. So, to put it simply, I would run for whatever party I think gains me the biggest chance of winning. I don't care about party alignment. I care about getting into the White House and getting jobs done. And then just straight up, get in there, wreck shit, do shit, and leave. That's my policy on that. Get in there, wreck shit, do shit, and leave. See, there you go. That's a slogan y'all can get behind. Get in there, wreck shit, do shit, leave. It's not dominant in Oregon. Not Oregon specifically, but overall. Here's the thing about me running under the Republican Party, though. It's me silencing any sort of opposition, if you will, right? If I run as a Republican, all I have to deal with is a party associated with anarchy and lawlessness and just overall belligerence. But with the general governorship overall, there's more governors that are Republican than are Democrat at this point. There are more Republicans in the Senate. And there is a Republican president. And there's a Republican Supreme Court. My goal in winning is by winning over the Republican base. By running as a Republican. So it's a two-layer strategy, right? You run for you. The smartest way, basically, is to run for the political party opposite of your ideology in this case. Because most likely, there isn't going to be much of a Democrat overturn. What will happen, most likely, is that Republicans will lose the Senate and gain the House. There will still be a majority of governors in the United States that are Republican. There will continue to be a Republican-dominant president, and there will be for a long time a Republican-dominated Supreme Court. So when you add all those up and you take the pros and you take the cons, the logical resource is unfortunately Republicans. Basically, so yeah. I am very. You would be surprised, Anime Malaysia, how many Trump supporters are mercs. But the reason why I'm operating under a political mercenary thing is because I am not allowed to own guns, and I'm not a guy who's for hitman pieces and for money. So I'm not really the traditional mercenary. My payments generally result in some form of political or social influence. If I see more pros and cons in running for Democrat, I'll run for Democrat. If I see more pros than cons in support being a Republican, I'll be a Republican. I am not politically affiliated. I hate any idea of absolute loyalty. Simply put, in my fields of specialty, I am not afraid to play sides. If I see a personal gain in being a Republican, then I'll be a Republican. But if I see a greater personal gain in being a Democrat, then I'll be a Democrat. And the fact of the matter is I take this for a specific kind of pay. Before I was a Trump supporter, I was the main political advisor for the LGBTQ plus community, even though I'm heterosexual. Even though I'm a heterosexual, I served from the years 2012 to 2015 as their main advisor. I am the guy who built up their group. The over-engorged monstrosity happened when they took my playbook and learned nothing from it. I told them where to go. I told them who to vote for. I told them which ideologies, which political platforms, which slogans and agendas they should vote for. And they completely took that and went the opposite way. And they did that. And basically what had me removed from their capacity was that we disagreed on a transgender issue. I am actually in absolute agreement, Mystical Snow Fox. I don't believe either side is bad either. I believe in the end as a personal gain issue. See, the whole concept of nationalism is a bit disingenuous. Sure, there are going to be people who believe in the nation state, but in all honesty, there is no united sense of nationalism. Every nation is going to have a plethora of different thought processes and philosophies. The only reason why you should ever support your nation unilaterally, God, I can't talk tonight, is so you survive. Nah, curb stomping a fool doesn't give me any. Being the guy who was the political advisor of the LGBTQ plus community, as well as one of the contributing factors to Donald Trump's election, yeah, that sounds like a lot of personal gain now, doesn't it? Because basically I gave them all the tools. And then when the LGBTQ plus community booted me out, I just used their past movements and actions as a means for Trump to win. All that negative behavior, all the negative tactics, straight out of my playbook. Which to be fair, for full transparency, it is just kind of taking Niccolo Machiavelli's playbook and just like adapting it for the modern age. So it's not really my playbook. It's me innovating the playbook. I've done everything I've done because I have one goal. I have one goal, but I also have one slight personal flaw. And that personal flaw is that, quite frankly, I'm honestly consumed by rage and grief. 12 years ago, my old man was murdered before my family's very eyes. Why would I want to be a part of the KKK? That's literally destruction of your political campaign. Being supportive of... Yeah, but you gotta remember, that movement rose up because of me. And for fuck's sake, never will I actually support the KKK. Like, my channel's main artist is African American. Okay? I don't want anything bad to happen to him. I'm not going to want anything bad to happen to anybody who supports someone that's rotten as I. My thought process is simple. I still haven't been able to mentally and emotionally get past the scars of those times. But wanting kind of that is what you meant. Still kind of doesn't really work well, if you know what I mean. Somebody somewhere is going to have a cell phone, right? And they're going to record your actions. Don't worry about it, Anime Malaysia. It's an old racist group rooted in some of the less favorable and more racial supremacist times of our country. Which, to be fair, I don't come from this country. My family used to be from, unfortunately, my great-grandfather Tomlin, he was part of the Schutzstaffel. So I'm not very happy about that history, but it has to be said regardless. Because full transparency. I think, here's the thing, I think both political parties intend to be good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think either side is ill intent. But, and that's a big but, that's a rise to a thick tier level of but. Intent does not always equal result. Now, back to the times I was serving as an advisor for the LGBTQ+ community, they kicked me out on one specific issue, and that's trans representation. Okay? My entire tactics for building up that community was that it was supposed to prevent people from hating that community, right? Because at that time, people in general were getting really sick of celebrity stories, right? And there's this article talking about trans celebrities. And my question is, why would you be represented by something that people have grown tired of rather than building new stars? See, the thing about the name OneManCast is that it's always been about building new stars, building new faces. Because that is how you build an economy of business. You don't rely on the old guard all the time. You're going to stagnate whether you're Hollywood or any sort of business or a political activist movement if you're just only going to rely on the old guard. Like, the whole reason I got kicked out is that I was trying to say to them, and I did it rather poorly, mind you, and probably wasn't my best work, was that I was trying to say, why not build up new transgender stars if you're going to represent your community? Dependency and complacency is exactly what got us to a point where we allow the George Floyds to happen. Complacency is how We got things like, a good person, a good honest person like my old man murdered before my family's very eyes by a corrupt hospital system. And that's the thing. A lot of my actions I've taken either A, are intended to bring calamity upon this country, and part of it is to bring a peaceful world as a tribute to my old man. Because that man wanted a world of love and peace, and he always was there to make me smile. He was always there to make everybody smile. He loves magic tricks. He loved music. He loved graffiti art. He loved painting. But most of all, he loved telling jokes to people. He loved making people smile. And the thing is, my old man and I never really agreed on anything much, but what made him mean something to me was that in my worst times, when I was, in jail, serving time, he was the one who was there for me. Not just there for me, but to teach me the things I did wrong, because I was very stupid back then and unaware of the things I was doing. He taught me what I did wrong. He taught me how to healthily express my issues that led to the crimes. He taught me accountability. He taught me how believing in somebody who may not deserve it will inevitably make them choose to be better. He taught me so many good things. And despite everything that he's been through, he basically, as a child, had to raise himself, right? Because his mother was a drunkard and couldn't take care of him. His dad was almost never there for him. He had to learn how he illegally drove as a 9-year-old so he could go to a doctor's appointment just to take care of his body. He would be forced to do illegal things solely for the sake of survival. And even when I was a young child, right? And we were poor. And there were times where he would sacrifice his own health just to make sure his family was protected, so I had a roof over my head, food on the table, and Christmas presents under the Christmas tree. One of the favorite moments of my life and my late old man's is my 8th birthday. He noticed that I had just gotten into Pokemon, and he bought me things like the Game Boy Color when it came out. He bought me Pokemon Blue, Gold, Silver, and even the strategy guides, like the books, those book strategy guides. He saw me get really interested in Pokemon and Digimon and whatnot. He saw how my eyes lit up and got excited over this medium. And he would do everything he could do to make me happy, to the point where he would sacrifice his clothes, right? Many people you see out in public have pants without holes in them, right? So, to see if I can give a good visual example, imagine all of that part being almost completely gone. Because we were so poor that he could either choose to benefit himself and, benefit his well-being, or choose to sacrifice that so he could pay for food, water, shelter, and on top of that, give his child and then eventual children a means to have Christmas presents under the Christmas tree. The level of sacrifice that man did for me. And not only that, he expanded my mind too. Because when I was a little child, he also taught me how to play chess. And by learning how to play chess, it helped activate certain parts of my mind, my brain. It activated a sense of curiosity. I appreciate that. But you're not the kind of people I want to apologize. because you guys didn't contribute to that society. You guys didn't contribute to the things and the thing, wrong with this, entire planet. You guys didn't contribute to any of that. You guys did nothing wrong. That's why I don't have any malice towards any of you, because I know that you guys are well-intentioned. I appreciate the pity, or not the pity, but the sympathy. But the thing that needs to change is the stuff that we can all agree on. We need to have regulations of hospitals, police, and various other institutions. We need a better guarantee. And Trump's just a cog in the machine that I'm setting up. Because Trump's term, even if he wins, ends in 4 more years. So I'm already trying to work on a means of taking that to the next level. But here's the weird thing that I've noticed. Not only was my family so irreparable. Yeah, well, the thing is, Mystical Snow Fox, the duty of a politician in the end is to make sure that, yeah, life may be hard. But the whole point of being a politician is to make sure life gives you as little adversity as possible. I can't change everything. We as a community have to do that. But in order for that to happen, we have to be able to work together without other people throwing out wrenches to make our own lives miserable. Why is it that we cannot come together when life makes us miserable, and that we have to hurt each other in order to get any sense of joy? Why is it that when we are down and out, that we ask people for help, and that people give help back? Because we will always reach a point where that happens. And I realized this around 2015 as well. 2015, 2014-ish. Because that's kind of around the same time my best friend attempted suicide. I took everything my old man taught me, used it to help that person get better, and he himself wanted to go and show me around, show me the things that he likes and is interested. He's a vapor. But as I go around and I hear people talking, I hear the same things other people going through, what my family went through. And that, to me, was more upsetting. See, there could be a little bit of rationalization on my part, that maybe if innocent people don't get hurt, maybe it's penitence for my failures and crimes. But when I see innocent people on that case, there is no forgiveness. Rage and grief will always consume me. But that's because it gives me strength. It's because it gives me power. And most of all, it gives me a reminder that my old man exists. I am not a good person. I am not above putting the world into chaos, into accomplishing a goal where people will finally learn to love each other. I am literally willing to turn the entire world against me, united, so that they can find common ground, no matter their background, and learn to love each other and coexist. That is how dedicated I am to my old man's vision. You may not agree with the methods I use. He's always hated my any means necessary tactics. But you know what? He would know full well that even if we didn't agree on something, we would still love and cherish each other regardless. And that's all I can hope for. I can only hope for the fact that no matter their flaws, their failures, if one side is willing to find common ground and ask you for help, all I can ask is you can do the same for them. Because I just don't want people to go through this shit anymore. Because life throws us enough bones as it is. Every single political theatric you see before you in this modern day has my rage, my grief, create the roots of it all. Now, I'm not going to say I'm the only, I'm not the only person involved with this. Far from it. But it also isn't really right to deny my part in the matter. And I can do this over and over and over again politically. Because reasonable suspicion will always be greater than reasonable suspicion. Wait, no, I'm not so sorry. Reasonable doubt. There we go. Oh. I don't know enough about Tyrion Lannister. I only watched like a couple seasons with my buds because they wanted to see me react to it. I mean, it's up to you, really. I mean, it might be a good idea for a different name. In the end, while I do have a bit of rage and grief that will always permeate in my methods, deep down, the ultimate X factor is I don't want you to be put through that same misery. Oh, yeah, from what I've seen, me too. What I want to see is that no matter the dire situation you're in, another human being can't go and make it worse. If you're struggling through something, don't internalize it and take it upon yourself. The only thing you should take upon yourself is that when you need help, look for it. Sure, you may find 10 people who won't, but you will always find one who will. And it is the job of people like me to make sure that you face as little adversity as possible by the hands of another human being. Sorry for the long-winded rant, but that is basically the core ethos of how I function. And it's not a particularly unique desire. It's actually a pretty common one. But I think that what makes everything worse around is that my story is too common. Why should anybody who does good things have to suffer? Why is it that the good have to suffer and the bad get to thrive? That has been something I've never understood. And probably won't understand, no matter how reasonable the logic is and how much the logic is understandable, I still won't be able to comprehend it. My talents lie in political fields, in academic fields, but one of my greatest weaknesses is emotion. I am basically an emotional fountain. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And in the end, it's gotten me into a lot of trouble. It's alienated so many people from my channel. Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about the car king thing. Exactly, Snowfox. But it's the job of people like me to make sure, and I use the phrase, as little as possible for a reason. The phrase, as little as possible, is how I phrased it. Because, yeah, we've all been through a lot. But it should be minimized. It should be minimized. And the only way we can do it is if we start banding together. And I don't care how it happens. I don't care if it has to make me the big baddie, or if we just finally learn to coexist. I could care less. all that matters is the end goal. And that's where people finally, no matter what position they're in, learn to love each other and coexist. Because that's the only way we're going to start taking root and making sure people aren't assholes to people all the time. And you know what, Snow Fox, I don't want you to go through anymore. Sure, you may from nature itself, but why should any human being make your life worse? So long as we operate, when it comes to politics, so long as we operate under the assumption that, you know, both sides come to an understanding of, you know, the good intentions, bad results, we're already going to be better off as a general country and people. We got to stop operating on ideas for both sides that they come from a bad place. We can judge all we want upon the execution because, yeah, sometimes good intentions don't pay out well. But to operate on the assumption that someone is just a constant liar, that they do nothing to tell the truth. Hell, I even gave Biden credit on this stream. Because some of the things he says, I'm like, yeah, I agree to an extent. But we got to remember that no matter how wrong we may perceive somebody, we still have to operate on the assumption that it's not born of malice. And that's the problem I've had with both sides. Both sides operate with the intent of malice and not realize that it's just stupid decisions we make. The first step we as a group of people have to do is operate under the assumption that there are good intentions for the most part. Some are not so good intention, there is no doubting that. But for the most part, we should operate on the what we call modus operandi, that they come from a good place, particularly in politics. Because even if your opponent operates on such a negative level, doesn't that just mean you'll operate on a much better level if you, in general? So let's take that, you know, the never Trumper argument, you know, that Trump is immature and he's inflammatory, blah, blah, blah. But then where does the buck stop? Don't you think it's better not to sink to those theoretical depths? Or do you think it would be better to rise above your own hatred so you can demonstrate how it's done? So, I have basically a counter-argument for every question. But in the end, every person deserves to have as little adversity in life as possible. Everybody does. So, the only way we can win through all these trying times is having an empathetic community. I hope that you have the strength to, you know, push through, Mystical. I hope you have the strength to persevere. Because whether you're black, you're white, you're gay, you're straight, we all bleed red. And in the end, bleeding red and understanding that basic concept is how we, as a people, come together. Forgive which that you don't like about a person, and embrace and love everything there is to love about a person. That's all I can say. I'm going to start streaming in an hour or so for, I'm going to do a couple hours of stream for Record of August War 2 after this, and a couple hours of stream for Genshin Impact. Thank you for watching this. I know it may sound very self-serving, and it may be a little over the top. Nice, nice. Hopefully that pans out well for you. So, sorry if this spiel is a bit self-serving, if you want. I'm sorry if it upsets you, but, you know, these things we have to get out in the open. And so, I thank you all for persisting through this. I thank you all for watching this. And I hope you guys have a good day. And I'll try to be keep in mind these debates, when they're done, they're probably going to be an isolation in vacuum. That after the debates of this election are over, I'm probably just going to only go back to only doing writing streams, game streams, working on parodies, etc. I don't try to do these things too often. I know how some people can be upset by these debates. For me, these debates, they're fun, they're passionate, but I completely acknowledge if these things upset. And I don't intend to do these often. I know what you meant, Bram. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you in a bit.